I believe my understanding from my recollection of that was that the county, and Jim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, didn't spend the money for 1 year, but still collected it. And then it was saying, well, we'll do this or we'll do that. Does that give you pause for where this is going, Jim?
Well, I think that obviously the dollars are taken in, they have to be spent within a certain time frame, just as CRA dollars have to be spent within a certain time frame. But the reality of it is, you don't go out and spend money just because you have money. You want to get the best bang for your buck. You want to make sure the property you're purchasing is at the best price. And I certainly don't like what St. John's Water Management District is trying to tell the county that they're trying to do at this point in time, where they purchase some of these lands at a high dollar rate. Now they want to turn around and sell those lands at a low dollar rate when valuations are down. And then they still have to take those dollars, or most of those dollars, and reinvest them in other properties. So to me, it just doesn't make sense as to the direction they're headed. And from someone from a conservative background in terms of looking at how you spend dollars, it doesn't make me very happy about that direction.
You want to have any more on this, or should we move on?
No, I think that's discussed.
Okay, Deb Denny's, there's been talk about the fire pensions, the unfunded liabilities. There's more and more looking like we could go with consolidation of fire departments. Would you support that, a countywide fire department?
I think everything's got to be on the table. I have attended the city meetings, particularly up at Port Orange, with all of their pensions, their fire, their police, and their general fund pensions. And the problem with a lot of these pensions, most of them, is that they're underfunded because of the fund manager. You know, they're putting 6.5%, 7% rate of return. That's just not right. I used to be a securities dealer with MetLife, so I have a strong degree and understanding and background in finance. It is unsustainable at some point in time. So you have to look for revenue sources, and I think everything has to be on the table. I wouldn't close the door in any conversation with that.
Mr. Hathaway.
Certainly has to be beneficial for everybody. The reality of it is, we govern ourselves under what's called home rule. And home rule means that the government closest to the citizenry is the one that makes the best decision for those citizenry, which means the municipalities make the best decisions. Now, the argument is, once you go into the county level, you're asking yourself, well, can the county supply the same service at a cheaper rate? Well, in New Smyrna Beach, you can't. The reality of it is that then you have to ask the citizenry, what do you want? Do you want to have a combined force or not? The pension issue goes a lot deeper. In New Smyrna Beach, we've recently just bargained, and you have to bargain in good faith. It's a bargaining process with the union. We just recently got out of or just signed a contract with our firefighters where they are agreed to increase their percentage of pay into their pension plan to 10%. Now, it's going to be taking 3 years for them to get there, but all the new hires will pay 10% into their pension. And all the new hires will have a 2% multiplier instead of a 3% multiplier, which will reduce that debt load significantly. And we've had actuaries and we've had attorneys explain to us how we can get from point A to point B. When times are good, you can give your employees anything.
Let me follow up with you on the police side. Here in Oak Hill, they did away with their police force a year ago in August, and they're under the purview of the sheriff's office. Yes, you have contracts now established with your municipal, I guess Lunar, I'm not sure what it stands for, but the employees, the municipal people to cut the grass and things like that, and also your firefighters, but you're still waiting on your police officers. Could you envision a countywide police force at some point, Mr. Hathaway? And would you support it?
Again, only if the citizenry demanded it. If the citizenry said from their home rule perspective, and that's what the elected officials decide after listening to their citizenry, how do we want to proceed? I might be a little biased. My son's a Volusia County Deputy Sheriff, so I'm just throwing that out there. But you know, I have a lot of respect for anybody that puts their life on the line for other citizens. And you know, from my perspective, I think it's a decision that each city must make. And if collectively it works, that the sheriff's office would be the one to provide police services for all cities in Volusia County, and it works out to be financially feasible, works out to be the safest means of delivering that type of protection, then I'm for it.
Ms. Denny's, on the police front, would you be in favor of going with the Oak Hill way of, I know in Edgewater they've had some difficulties with finances. From a District 3 point of view, would you be looking more to countywide policing, or do you agree with Mr. Hathaway that it would have to be home decision?
I don't think they should be from the top down, that should be from the bottom up. If a municipality is having an issue, Oak Hill had their own issues, they had their reasons, and some not all fiscal. So for whatever reason, their city commission voted to go with the sheriff's department, and I think it's probably working well for them. Every city is different. Volusia County is geographically the size of Rhode Island, so to just assume in one wave of the brush that this form of governing or managing is going to work, I don't think that's going to work anywhere. I would not proceed with it unless, again, you know, the municipalities came to us and said that's the way we want to go. It would depend on that.
Mr. Hathaway, you brought up the stuff about the beach patrol. Are salaries for public officials out of whack on the public sector versus the private sector? Ms. Denny's.
Are you talking elected officials?
No, I'm talking county staff. The salaries, the salaries from the county manager on down to the person that cuts the grass.
Well, you know, that's an interesting thing, because I'm involved in a lot of boards. I serve in a lot of boards, a lot of committees, have worked across the county either from the business perspective, but anyway, not as an elected or an appointed or government employee, let's put it that way. So when I attend a meeting in Palm Coast, or I go to Deltona as a meeting, as guardian ad litem, whatever, I pay for my own gas. It's my own time. But when a government employee goes, they get gas, they get time, they get all the reimbursements. So it's not just the salaries you look at, it's all the benefits, it's all the perks, it's all those things. The public sector versus the private sector is out of balance at some point in time. And I think that's what the general public truly doesn't understand when there's an imbalance with something.
Mr. Hathaway, the idea of, you know, with the union influences, the idea that there's some resentment that public officials, not officials, but I mean employees make sometimes two and a half times what the average person makes out there.
Well, again, I'm a small businessman. I'm a single employer. I don't employ anybody but myself. And I know what it's like to earn a living and go out day by day. I know what it's like when I'm sick and I still crawl out of bed and I go to work, because that's what I have to do to make a living, put bread on my table. That's my choice, that's my decision. The idea that you talk about unions getting away with a higher payroll or higher pension or what have you, well, they had to bargain that. They had to come to the table. They had to have someone, and it's not the elected officials that sit at a bargaining table when you deal with a union. It's a union, it's a labor team that's picked by the city manager, and usually it's the department head of whatever department it is that you're looking at, and it could include a labor attorney and an HR person. And that's who actually negotiates.
Thank you. Mr. Hathaway, should the county provide a new CRA for New Smyrna Beach when the existing one sunsets in 2015? And I know I've asked you this before, but I want to be on the record. What about the continuation of Canal Street, which will be 30 years in 2015? Your take.
I've said multiple times that I think that the Canal Street area has received its fair share of the CRA dollars. It's time to spread that wealth somewhere else. There's a good feel between the cities, ranging from Ormond Beach all the way down to Oak Hill, along the US 1 corridor, that they would all like to have some form of a tax incentive break for their cities. And I understand, after talking with Mr. Deneen, that the new process is, in the past, the county would give you a percentage that was greater than what the cities were actually bringing in to the table. In fact, this year the county provided $1 million, where the city of New Smyrna Beach is only providing $500,000 to its CRA, which does sunset in 2015. That will never occur again. All now it's going to be matching dollars, so whatever the city's side of it is, if the city gives $300,000, the county will only provide that same $300,000.
Okay, and let me just, before I get to you, Ms. Daly, let me just follow up with you. The issue of blight. Personally, I think US 1 is blighted. What about you?
I agree. I think you can go, there are certain areas of US 1 that look very nice. And there are other certain areas of US 1, no matter where you come, whether you start down here at the south end of the county and drive all the way to the north, or wherever you start at, you're going to find that in every city, there is an area within that US 1 corridor that doesn't look good. Go to South Daytona, for instance, right now. I mean, they are spending a bunch of money. And it's good for them, it's federal dollars that are coming in. But they are doing a great job in dressing up that US 1 corridor. And when it gets finished, they're going to be very proud of it, and we're all going to be envious that we would like our city to look the same.
And Denny's, as far as US 1, let me start with Canal Street first. By 2015, it'll be 30 years. Should we continue giving Canal Street more, or is it time to move on?
Well, let's talk about CRAs philosophically. We've talked about government in past forums to vetting applicants and processes and procedures. So when we're talking about CRAs expanding, the only way, and I think we should expand it because I think US 1 should have that. However, when you have an existing CRA and a board who, I think the legal term was unwittingly, gave tax dollars, gave CRA dollars to board members on the CRA, you know, there comes a purview under home rule, and under home rule you rule your home, your own home first before you go to the county, before you expand any other policies and procedures. So under the CRA, the ad authority, but the issue is transparency, accountability, and putting those procedures in place, and it doesn't become or appear to become a slush fund.
Let me stop you right there and let me reiterate. Do you support a continuation of the CRA for Canal Street?
Canal Street, probably not.
Okay. What about US 1? Is it blighted?
Yes. Oh yeah, I would support CRA. I'm on record with that.
And just to be clear, Jim, the CRA, the unwittingly stuff, that came from the CRA consulting attorney. Now that you guys have taken it over as the city commission itself, do you see yourselves more in control of where the CRA, you know, you had a lot of people
Once the
resign.
city commission was apprised of the situation that there was an issue going on where this was illegal, the city commission immediately took action, took over the board, and that does not occur. An ordinance has been passed, and no one, no staff member, nobody on the board,
Directly or indirectly?
can receive any funding.
I'll give you the last word on that and move on. But, well, you brought up the issue. You brought up the issue of the unwittingly, so I was...
Well, yeah, but it's true. And that's the whole problem with governing is policies and procedures, and as elected officials, whether it's at the city, it's the county, the state, you don't micromanage. It is in the day-to-day activities. It is the policy and procedural making body. And that's what the county actually has been weak on as far as the ad authorities, and some of these things that we've experienced in southeast Volusia has occurred and can still occur because the council did not take some of the county manager's ideas. But it is what it is. You're one vote out of 7 on the county council to see what direction it's going to go. You're not there,
okay.
You know, is one. So.
All right. Ms. Denny's, you were on the school board. What did you learn from that experience, and how will that help you if you're elected District 3 county council person, county council member?
Well, that was an election countywide. One thing for sure, government goes to those who show up. And if you have the courage of your convictions, you can accomplish a lot. We accomplished a lot in that time at on the school board. We reunited Southeast Volusia back to a common calendar from year-round school. I don't know how many of you remember year-round school, but we were used as a guinea pig in the school district. Southeast Volusia was. That's why I ran to represent Southeast Volusia. We accomplished that in less than 2 years in reuniting Volusia County back to a common calendar. That was huge. It saved millions of dollars. We saw some reports that some of the schools was costing about $1.4 million, 1.3 in operating dollars, not to include plummeting academic values here in Southeast Volusia. So if you have the courage of your convictions, you do your homework, you do your research, you ask the tough questions, and you get the answers on record, we can do a lot.
And for clarification, when were you elected to the school board? How long was the term?
94 through 98.
Thank you.